now that the soft landing has happened. And Mahesh Anand is the professor of Planetary Science and Exploration at the Open University from London. Mahesh, thank you very much for staying with us. I just want to know, hearing our correspondents there talking about the challenges that lie ahead and the gains that lie ahead for Chandrayaan-3, I just want to know from you, what are the main advantages of a lunar soft landing technology, and what else can it do in the future?
Sorry, I think there was a disturbance towards the end of your question. Can you just repeat the final bit?
Absolutely. I just want to know, what are the main advantages of lunar soft landing technology, and what else can they do in the future?
Right. Okay. I mean, there are lots of answers to this question. I mean, first of all, to successfully land on another planet is a major achievement in itself. So if you have the technology, then that means that actually, there is an increased confidence in not just ISRO, but any external, let's say, customer who wants to land on the moon. They might be able to partner with ISRO, and ISRO say, yes, we have the ability to take you and your experiment to the moon. So that's the first thing that would happen. The second thing that it would do is that it would kickstart a new era of research where actually technological development for landing on other bodies such as Mars and maybe even further distant destinations could be developed. So I think this will lead into a lot of new areas of research, a lot of new development of technologies, alongside actually making India potentially a big player, just like they have become a big player in launching satellites into space. India could also become a major provider for experiments for the worldwide community to take them to the lunar surface in a successful and a controlled manner.
Professor Anand, this is going to be a very interesting moment, especially the next few hours. We spoke about how the crucial bit was about landing on the south pole of the moon, but now that the Vikram lander is already there, it'll take about 3.5 hours for the Pragyan rover to, in fact, make its way outside the Vikram lander. The reason for this, it is being said, is because of the dust that's been kicked up by the Vikram lander at the moment that it landed. How much of a challenge is the dust on the surface of the moon?
Right. So dust on the moon is one of the most difficult things that any lander or even humans, when they actually landed on the moon, they faced. So alongside the radiation environment, dust constitutes the most challenging aspect, and it's good that actually they are waiting for some time, because you got to wait for dust to settle, so to speak, because the dust on the moon is so fine-grained that it can get into the moving parts of any machinery, any wheels or anything. You were talking about Pragyan rover, being able to trundle on the lunar surface. So when it will do it, it will not lift the dust as much as it would have been lifted during the actual landing of the Vikram lander itself, because it has retro rockets, and there would have been a lot of dust lofted into the thin atmosphere of the moon. So I think this is really going to be some tricky moments for ISRO to confirm that everything is working as expected, and then be able to commission the instruments that the lander and the rover has taken along with itself. And then they have got the next 14 days when the landing location is still receiving sunlight, to do a number of very important scientific experiments that we are all looking forward to.
Professor Mahesh, now that you've brought up the issue of looking forward, there are so many people world over, millions of people who are looking at this and seeing an opportunity in that. Probably can talk about that sector, the startups sector, the space startup sector. This successful landing of the rover on the moon is a great feat for the space enthusiasts going forward. What can they learn from this?
Tremendous. I mean, I can't be any more pleased, really, to be honest with you, because I have been associated with lunar missions and lunar planning for the last almost 20 years. And I have been through some very difficult times. Some of you may remember there was something called the Google Lunar X Prize that was launched around 2008. And many of the private companies and many actually established people left their jobs to take on the challenge to, demonstrate that they can get to the moon. And many of those people actually, they lost their jobs at that time and there was no future for them. And I know many of them personally. So now seeing that actually what India has achieved, at least through ISRO, my hope is that there would be a great deal of desire within India, supported by the Indian government, to spread that knowledge and technology, beyond ISRO and support those ambitious and entrepreneurial skills that many of our youngsters in India and outside India, even they possess, to really capitalize on this moment and make a huge contribution to the development of the country, to the development of economy, and make a substantial contribution and make a world impact.
Professor Mahesh, stay with me because I want to go to our correspondent Siddharth MP, who is in Bengaluru, who has been observing all this happening from the time it started to the time that the rover landed actually on the moon successfully. And Siddharth MP, there are so many young faces that we are seeing on the screens who are observing this great feat for India. Have you managed to talk to them? What are they saying? What have they learned from this soft landing mission?
So basically the soft landing mission validates what they've done all these years, because everything in space as far as the mission is concerned is a sort of calculated effort. You don't really have the opportunity to simulate exact conditions like on Moon or Mars or other planets. So what you're able to do is you're able to set up mock setups like Moon and Mars on planet Earth. You're permitted to test that, and based on those tests, what you have is you have a as close as possible idea, and using that you implement this mission. So we are yet to get the opportunity to speak to the scientists, because they're right now addressing a press conference, they're addressing the media and then sharing ISRO's future plans, because Chandrayaan 3, yes, is mission accomplished, but ISRO is never the one to stop with one success, never the one to stop with one record. They're on to multiple records. For them, the next 1 year or next 2 years perhaps will be the busiest ever in the history of the Indian space program, because there is one mission, even like a couple of weeks from now, we are expecting it on September 2nd or 4th, there is one mission that will travel the furthest that an Indian spacecraft has gone, 1.5 million kilometers from the Earth. This is the mission known as Aditya L1. It goes to a vantage point to be able to study the sun and the solar phenomenon. After that, there are missions as part of the Gaganyaan program, where India hopes to send astronauts to low Earth orbit, which is roughly 400 kilometers above the surface of the Earth, and then bring them back safely. There are multiple tests to be done. There is an unmanned mission where India will send a robo to space and then test all the systems. Just like how Chandrayaan is a sort of precursor to bigger things, sending a robo is a process where you check if the robo can survive, and you do the tests on that. And then after that, if all systems are found and sensors are found to be normal, what you do is you execute the manned mission. So ISRO has a very, very busy calendar. This is yet another feather in their cap. But, this is a cap that is got unlimited room for more feathers. So they're waiting for more and more opportunities to do the country proud, Eric.
Absolutely indeed, Siddharth. Do continue to stay on with this. Professor Anand, if I can bring you in on this. One of the things that is talked about a lot about India's space missions is how economical India's space missions are. Now, for instance, Chandrayaan 3 is said to have got a budget of about 615 crores. What do you think makes ISRO so economical? Because comparisons are made with India's space missions to the budgets of these Hollywood films that they talk about on themes of space.
That's true. I'm not an expert in this area, but I think what I understand is that sometimes this comparison is a little unfair. Given the strength of the Indian currency, I think it's not at par with when we are comparing the cost of other missions in dollars, let's say, or euros. So It may be that actually, I'm not denying that actually there is a possibility that there is a way ISRO has found which is much more efficient than, other competitors. But I think there is an element of also, where India as a country is and how the economy is currently placed. But in future, as we move in the next 10 years, 20 years time, perhaps, things will start to become they may seem to be equally expensive as they appear outside India.
All right, very interesting point there. But Professor Anand, just a follow-up question to that. The fact that India has now demonstrated its ability to land, soft land on the surface of the moon, this opens up an entire sector of, research and also probably of space tourism as well. How far do you think we are from that stage?
So I think we still, of course, this is a great moment today. We can't control our joy and pride today, for what has just happened. But I think we need to also remind ourselves that space is inherently difficult place to explore. Only a few days ago, we heard about an unsuccessful landing attempt by, Russia. So it's not that easy. Landing a robotic spacecraft is one thing, but actually landing humans onto the moon is yet another, matter. And I think until and we have to take steps. And I think these are baby steps that I think everyone has to take. And I'm very, very pleased that actually India is adopting a stepwise approach and not just giving up at the first hurdle, which is really great news. What I would like to see is that after this, India need to demonstrate a number of follow-up landed missions. Then they should in parallel have a human launching capability, mission so that the astronauts can be taken to space, return to the Earth successfully. And those type of technologies and vehicles need a lot more testing. So I think it will be, quite a few years before we imagine, India taking humans to the moon and landing them successfully and bringing them back.
All right, we've been talking to Professor for Planetary Science and Exploration at the Open University from London, and Mahesh Anand. Professor, thank you very much for all your time and for talking to us today, and also our correspondent Siddharth MP, who has been following this and observing this since the start to the end. Siddharth MP, thank you very much for all your inputs and for talking to us today. We did have the Prime Minister, Narendra Modi, speak to the chief of ISRO while on a trip to South Africa in Johannesburg, and he did make a speech actually. This is the Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi who made a phone call to ISRO chief Somananth just to congratulate him on this big feat for India, and like he said in his speech, a great feat for humanity. Saleh.
और सबको मेरी तरफ से अभिनंदन कह दीजिए, और हो सके उतना जल्दी मैं आप सबको रूबरू में भी बधाई दूंगा। बहुत बहुत शुभकामनाएं और बहुत बहुत बधाई। ये पल अविस्मरणीय है, ये क्षण अभूतपूर्व है, ये क्षण विकसित भारत के शंखनाद का है, ये क्षण नए भारत के जयघोष का है।